Howdy. Does anyone here know what the letters GMO stand for? So, GMOs are genetically modified organisms, and generally that's used as a blanket term for all food and fiber products created through genetic engineering. So, with this, GMOs are most certainly the best chance we have at feeding a hugely and quickly growing world population. And with that in mind, GMOs are an incredibly nutritious, safe, and viable option for feeding that growing world population. And so, with that in mind, just kind of delving deeper into that, looking at the nutrition behind GMOs. So, a huge driving factor behind developing genetically modified organisms was actually to see if we could bring more nutrition out of the same crops. And so what we did in a lot of different scenarios, one in specific is golden rice. We look at golden rice, which is a product that we lean on heavily in Eastern countries. Rice is a very huge part of the diet in a lot of developing Eastern countries and a lot of Eastern countries in general. And so what we did was we basically created a rice which looks gold to the eye because of its huge beta carotene content. Now, beta carotene is a natural component which has a lot of vitamin A in it. And so vitamin A deficiency is actually a huge problem in developing countries, and vitamin A deficiency leads to blindness, so it can be really bad if not taken care of. And so this is just our best way to combat it is with golden rice that's really high in vitamin A. And beyond this, just another part of why we brought GMOs into the mix is because they provide larger yields. And with that in mind, when we're using smaller crops with larger yields, we're going to get more nutrition just purely out of the added food to our industry. And then with all this extra food, with all these extra GMOs, that's great to have those, but we have to know if they're okay to eat. And so looking at that safety aspect, there haven't been any issues found by the Federal Food and Drug Administration or the U.S. Department of Agriculture. GMOs have been deemed safe by every legitimate scientific study or research that's been conducted. Now, there are some pretty strong factors, some pretty strong research against GMO safety, but I say strong in the sense that they carry a lot of weight to their name. However, the strongest of those have been retracted. There's nothing that's actually proved an issue. We can analyze the Seralini study all we want and look at how Roundup Ready corn affected these lab rats. And, there is correlation. Lab rats that were fed Roundup Ready corn did grow tumors in Seralini's lab. However, every rat in Seralini's lab grew tumors very rapidly. That was just what happened to be that breed of rats thing. They just grow tumors very fast. And so, there's just nothing to say that they're not safe. And so there's not a whole lot of GMOs on the market, but the ones that are on the market are safe for consumption. But going beyond this, why do we have GMOs? Oh, we developed GMOs as a viable option for feeding this world population. Companies like Monsanto estimate that we're going to have over 9 billion people by the year 2050. We're currently sitting at 7.7 billion, and we're most certainly going to be at or around 9.7 billion people by 2050. And we're not going to plateau there. It's going to continue to grow. That's just, a good time mark. And, we look at, these genetically modified organisms and why we brought them in. We're producing a lot more food with a lot less resources, whether it be with a drought-tolerant crop or with a smaller crop or whatever it may be. We're taking up less dirt, we're taking up less water, and, whether it's corn, sorghum, wheat, whatever it may be, even soybeans, we're much more efficient in the processes which we grow them, especially with these GMO strains. And, to even take it a step further, GMO foods just have a longer shelf life. Recently, the most recent genetically modified organism released for consumption in the United States is the Arctic apple. What an Arctic apple is an apple that has one extra gene added in that's not normally grown in apples. It substitutes for another gene that's already in the apple that was taken out, and we added in a gene, I believe, from a lemon. And as most know, lemon juice actually has a reverse effect on browning in apples. It slows it. And so with this gene in there, rather than having to sprinkle lemon juice on an apple or get the flavor of a lemon, we're just getting the benefit of, not browning our apples. And so these apples don't brown. They stay a lot fresher for a lot longer time. And, just things of that nature, having that shelf life, that's going to help us a lot in the long run, because a lot of times it's not producing food that's the issue, but it's transporting food before it spoils to the people who need it. And so that's just a huge, huge benefit for us. But, at the end of the day, I really hope that you go and you learn about this, because this really is something that is worthwhile to know. It's worth it to know that the benefits and the impacts of genetically modified organisms, and to make an educated decision yourself based off of what you as the consumer have researched. And, I know that once you do research this, you will find that GMO foods are a highly nutritious, safe, and viable option for feeding our growing world population. Thank you.